Welcome to Dancing Through It with your host, Lesliekuny, the podcast where we share honest conversations about passion, perseverance, and the power of movement. Our guest today is Marcel Tremel. Hello and welcome to the Dancing Through It podcast. Today, I am chatting with a very good friend, probably of over a decade, Mr. Marcel Tremel. We have known each other for a decade. He's been teaching for over 15 years. He's a graduate of CCPA, which is a musical theater program in Victoria. And this is just going to be a real bestie chit chat today. So be forewarned, it could go off the rails because our chats were a prelude to this entire podcast. So we'll talk about what initially happened for our first recording in a second, but I'm so happy that you're here today.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I think I would get a lot of angry, sassy text messages if I didn't have you on the show. Like, why did I
shade?
It's okay. I know I'll get it back at some point during this chat. I do want to disclose that we had already recorded an episode together.
Yeah, remember the time?
Yeah, what happened?
Yeah.
Who blew it? Me. I blew it. We had a great conversation. It was so lovely. And then I go to render it out of Zoom, and in my perfectionism of trying to get everything tidied up on my computer, I closed the box that was like exporting.
Download. Yeah.
That was a real bummer.
Happens to the best of us. Right?
Truly, I'm so grateful that it was you and nobody else.
I would understand.
It's true. And I think I immediately texted you being like, bro, I failed so hard.
It was a good talk, and I feel like today's might be completely different. I feel like we just almost need to know and accept that, and it's okay. We can't create perfection, you know? We were chatting before we got on being like, do you remember what we talked about? And we're like, no. This is what happens when you also go for lunch every 4 to 6 weeks and have a big download session. There's always things to talk about, which is something that actually, this will maybe kick us off. I am grateful that I have a colleague, peer, and friend in you that we can get together for lunch or whatever and really get into it. I think that's something. I feel like that's something every teacher needs. Like, that friend that is like, so in your corner and so like you can bounce ideas off of, you can bounce teaching techniques off of, you can bounce like navigating studio culture and drama and anything really, because and you just need somebody that's in your corner for you that is like also shares your best interests at heart, Yeah. I feel like lucky to have you for that too. Yeah, it feels like a safety net because there can be things that happen within being a dance educator that you might not want to go to the studio owner about that. And then I also feel like lots of times if you're not in it, you don't get it. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I could talk about these things with my partner, but they're not going to necessarily understand in the same capacity. I was just going to say that, like, I'd like to share, and I do share, don't get it twisted. I know we all do. I do share a lot with my partner, and it's not the same as talking to somebody who's also in the industry. And I can say for myself that as we've grown closer, I feel less stress in my day-to-day teaching, because if something goes awry or also if something amazing, I shouldn't just say that we just reach out to each other when bad No, it's both. It's happen. Honestly both. Like,
it is.
I will text you if I have a kid get an aerial, and I'm like, or like, oh my gosh, this student who was struggling with a retire 2 years ago now can do a triple turn. And I'm like,
100%.
Right? Like, those are the little wins. It's the like finally seeing, and I feel like it's important to share and celebrate both, and then like kind of navigate the hard stuff.
It's made a really big difference in my mental health and how I view myself as a teacher, knowing that there's somebody there that I can just reach out to in whatever way. So get yourself a dance teacher bestie if you don't already have one. And it doesn't necessarily have to be somebody who like works at the studio with you.
She's probably preferred if they don't.
Yeah, like it is quite convenient that the two of us we don't often work at the same place on the same night, which is great because then we can really get into it. But yeah, I think it's been really nice for my mental health. And to not feel so isolated, right?
Yeah, no, I definitely feel like our friendship has like helped me a lot too. So
take your dance bestie. Send this to your dance bestie. So I did jump ahead, and I don't know if we want to get into like your resume too much because I know there's like tons of stuff we can talk about, but maybe just hit us with like the synopsis, the highlights, how Marcel got to this place right now.
Okay, here we go. So I started dancing in Humboldt, Saskatchewan when I was like 7 or 8, and I trained at Jackie's Dance Academy. And I grew up doing like Canadian Dance Teachers Association exams in jazz and tap and Royal Academy of Dance ballet exams. And from there, I like eventually, and when I was in like my high school years, I auditioned for Saskatchewan Express, and I did like a musical theater touring review show across the province and the provincial parks. And then we also like went to like Western Canada, Canadian Games or something, and Kamloops. Like, so we went all over. From there, I auditioned for the Canadian College of Performing Arts. And while I was there, I kind of discovered, I always knew that I liked choreography, and I always knew that I like kind of, it was one of my things. And there I got the opportunity to kind of set things and work with like more professional setting. I graduated the program, and this is again, my journey, what happened, but I was doing a summer drop-in class that summer after I finished. I did a switch Russian, and I blew a disc in my back and like basically like ruptured a disc, and the nerves healed into it. And then it kind of had sciatic nerve pain and couldn't really straighten my left leg. And honestly, it took till like COVID for it to heal. So now it's kind of healed, but it's like basically that happened. I was like, okay, I need to find a job.
Right.
And then I like was like, oh, do I like do the acting thing and want to, I don't know, work at a coffee shop, or do I want to teach dance and choreograph?
Right.
And I was like, well, I want to teach dance and choreograph. So I moved to Little Invermere, BC, and taught First Stages School of Dance for a year.
Thing.
And I was like the one-room school teacher. I taught every single style, every level, every discipline. So like I taught the hip hop, modern, and like I taught everything. Like, and then not only that, I had to learn all of the adapt work because they were an adapt studio. So that's kind of how I got into learning the adapt program. And then I eventually got certified with that.
Right. I want to go back in time for a second because we haven't really touched on this. Going back to talking about being like the one room schoolhouse teacher, dance edition. That is a big reality.
Oh, and it's like a lot. It was a lot of material. Like, it was a big job learning all of like the RAD grades to teach them their material and all the adapt levels.
Yeah.
Like, I think I had like 3 or 4 adapt levels, and then like 5 or 6 ballet levels, and 2 or 3 tap levels that I have to kind of put kids in, like train for exams and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think that's such a reality for studios where they might be a rural or small town studio. They maybe only have 1 or 2 teachers, or maybe 3. And those teachers are responsible for such a bulk of work. But I really think there are a lot of studios out there like that is how the kids get trained. So it is sort of.
Also, when I think of it, that's kind of how I was trained too.
I was going to say, me too.
I feel like in bigger centers, the perception is that you get somebody who is their speciality to do jazz, or it's their specialty to do ballet, or it's their specialty for acro. But the reality is, in my opinion, that you're better off having just a good teacher that can teach multiple things and is versatile, and employ or like hire them for multiple days so that they don't need to work at any other studios, or that they only have to work at one or two, so that they can really invest in those kids. You'll care more if it's not just like a one-off, one day.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, at least that's my perception, because it's like, ooh, that leads me to like the whole studio owners bending over backwards to try and keep flaky employees.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, you might as well have the versatile, loyal teacher than it is to have like the name or.
For sure. And you raise a good point, because let's get real. In large centers where there is access to maybe quote unquote bigger names, there is something to be said in terms of the business side of, oh, if I hire this person to set choreography, or I hire this person, you know, to teach this genre of classes at my studio, it's a marketing tactic. It will get people in the door. Like, there's lots of,
I know, it's pros and cons.
There are, for sure. But also, as you say, when you have a teacher who is committed and loyal and maybe isn't the quote unquote big name, but is a dedicated and very good dance teacher, they have a connection with the students in a way that that guest doesn't. And I will say, as a teacher who I will put myself in the latter group of like, I'm the consistent day in, day out tech teacher. And I know you and I feel the same way about sort of who we are and like where we're at a little bit. And like, that's our bread and butter.
I feel like that's just like the reality of what we do. Like, why do we teach? Well, we teach because we want to have good people come out of our programs. We want to like make a difference in their life, but then we also value quality training and we want to make them their best potential. Like, I think that's what makes good teaching. I feel like what happens a lot, I see with like maybe some younger up and coming teachers, is the proving themselves mentality. And then it's like they're yelling and screaming at the kids nonstop to try and get them to do a dance that's perhaps a little bit out of their range.
And you're not wrong, because folks who consider themselves seasoned or, you know, experienced.
Am I seasoned? I'm so young.
Folks who are experienced dance teachers, I know for myself, when I look back, I really thought I knew what I was doing. And it's not that I didn't when I was young, but you're right. You learn so much as you go. And when you're younger, you are trying to prove yourself, because you're also.
That's natural. That's like, just thinking of, even as I said that in the moment, I'm like, no, that's a natural thing. Correct. Of course you're trying to prove yourself. Very natural. But then I also think like with the age comes the like realization that there's so much more than needing the validation of a 13-year-old on their solo. Like, you know what I mean? Like, ultimately our job is to make them look the best they can look. And like
100%. Okay, let's get into that, because I think I haven't really, I mean.
Well, I have like a,
hold on.
I don't know. I know my opinion differs than lots of people's on this.
No, but
I think my training, like growing up with Jackie, like she would choreograph slightly, like she would choreograph to her level, but then push.
Yes.
And then that's where anyone who's ever worked with me will know the Mr. Marcel Christmas wish list, where it's like I choreograph and I put things in. I want a triple turn here, but it might be a double because if you're not having it by Christmas pretty consistent, it's.
So let's talk about this, because I don't think I've really touched on this in previous episodes. And if I have, I'm so sorry. But obviously there's a lot of thread about talking about dance education. And this is something that you and I feel really strongly about, is creating movement and particularly choreography for the students we have, not for the dream in our head, not for the wish in my heart.
Ultimately, here's another thing I learned with age. It doesn't matter. It's not about you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like that was like the biggest thing I needed to digest, if you will, because I was like, oh, the reality is it's not like about myself. It's about me seeing the kid in front of me and who they are and where they're at in their dance journey.
Yeah.
And working with them where they're at. There's no point in me being like, well, like, you're never going to win. You need this in your dance, and even as the competition adjudicator, I'm like, well, maybe she doesn't need this in her routine. In fact, it would have been better if she didn't do that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I always feel when I make because so many folks start setting choreography in the summer, right? Prior to the season. It's difficult as the choreographer because throughout the year that child will grow, will have growth, will improve in technique and performance, ideally. So in some ways, you think ahead to next June or next May, and you go, oh, by that time they should be able to do this. So there's a tendency to sometimes make those pieces a little too difficult, as opposed to working with like really what's in front of you. And then as the season goes on, if you need to make adjustments, like you say, make it a triple, but if by January it's not, then it's a double. And knowing the wisdom to make those changes.
Again, experience. But like, it's also like, don't overload the routines. Like, yes, you should feature a turning moment. Yes, you can have a big jump moment. Yes, you can put that switch split or aerial in your routine. But like, it doesn't need to be so jam-packed that they took away the heart and soul of the dance.
Yeah. I call those kitchen sink dances where I'm just seeing like
all the tech.
And I'm like, where's the dance? And also spicy. Often when I see those dances that are the kitchen sink dances with all the tech, the transitions aren't as strong. So,
or it feels like a disconnect from the interpretation of the music.
100%. Like, okay. And then we're like, what are we doing here?
One thing that I kind of always remind people of is that, your job as an artist is to hear the music, feel the music, and share that feeling.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you have to act your way through the song. It's like you're acting to bring that song to life, and you just have to be using movement.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's an acting thing too, because you need to become and embody that movement and what that music calls for.
Yes. Speaking of music, that's a disconnect I personally find when I'm working with students. And I'm not sure why, because I recall when I was dancing, especially lyrical, big surprise, big emotions. But like, it felt like my soul was going to explode out of my body if I didn't like get like the song, and I could hear the words and the story and the heartbreak. I can hear how they're singing, and I'm translating that into my dancing and just feeling and I'm still so connected to music in like a crazy way. I'm like, I have no reason to be obsessed with this song, but I can hear the power and the emotion, and it makes me want to move. I haven't found tons of kids like that anymore.
But I also think, we talk about the it factor in the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the it.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, the it is like, can you just like hear it and feel in your soul? And in my opinion, that is what the it is.
Right. Yeah. I want them to get really invested.
I want them to feel it.
Song. Yeah.
But feel it with a stretched leg.
Always going to bring it back to the text, which I think is why I controversially like to work with my students in terms of selecting the music, because particularly if we're working in a solo, not so much in a group dance,
Yeah.
But especially if we're working in a solo, I need to make sure that student has a connection to that song, or else I know what I'm going to make isn't going to there's pieces of the puzzle. I'm one piece, the dancer's one piece, the music is one piece, the choreography is one piece. And if there isn't a thread that ties them together, it won't be as successful as it could be.
But then I also think, and I kind of kick myself for this now, if a choreographer comes to you with an idea and you don't hate the idea, do the idea, because honestly, they're so much more motivated and inspired if they have this like concept and idea that they want to do, and they like bestowed it upon you, like you're the chosen one to do this.
Right.
But you know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, I want to do this and it'll be so cool. And it's like, if they're excited about it, I'm pretty sure when you start working on it, you'll feel that passion, you'll feel that connection.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too. But the choreographer has to come into the space with that fire and that energy.
I find that finding song selections for students is almost like a casting project. It has to kind of suit them and needs to kind of make sense for them to like, does this song make sense for this dancer? Do you know what I mean?
Yes. I was going to say, would you say that your process in terms of selecting music for solos or groups or what have you, you're not thinking, oh, I'm inspired by this music, I can see a vision. You're thinking, does this song suit that group or suit that soloist? Is that your process?
Kind of circling back to the like experience thing. It's like I used to just do it by like what music inspires me.
Right.
But like, and while it's still what music inspires me,
of course,
it's what music inspires me and makes sense for this dancer.
Yeah.
Because we've all seen it. We've all attended events and competitions or performances, and you're just like, why is this 8-year-old dancing to an Adele song? Or dancers who maybe picked their own song, but then can't match the intensity of the music. So then as the song builds, they can't convey that level of attack or that level of energy. So then it kind of falls flat.
Yeah.
So I feel like
it's not
we
the
need
result
to, as educators, steer them. If we know, like, not that I don't want you to believe in your students, like believe in your students, but maybe like if they're kind of a softer dancer, like have one that doesn't necessarily have the like most dramatic build in the music.
Which I would say is actually easier to find these days. I'm always looking for like,
but then I also want
song.
the build, because I'm like, if it doesn't go anywhere, like where is the passion? Where's the
That's how I feel too.
So but the kid has to be able, like, it's again not about us. So
yes,
if they need to, yes, if they can bring that.
Yeah.
But if they cannot, it's not going to land.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes, of course.
But then I also feel like that's a really negative thing, and I don't know if I want people to associate me with that.
Well, I think here's what I'll say to that, and it'll take us into our next topic. Is I think that a lot of this information or a lot of these thoughts and feelings that you have in terms of creating movement and pieces for dancers not only comes from you having worked in the studio, for 15 years, but also that you have been adjudicating for like a hot minute. So you are on the other side of the table. You have experience both in the studio and then behind the microphone, watching these kids. And again, I'm going to put words in your mouth because we're friends, and I feel like, well, you'll also tell me if I'm wrong. But like now that, like when I watch a kiddo on stage as an adjudicator, I am watching them like they're my student. I have that information of being in the studio, working with that student. So that plays into my assessment or critique as an adjudicator. And it sounds like that's where a lot of this realization has come for you as well.
100%. So it's like the whole watching like 1,000 routines at a couple events a year has definitely been like, ooh, what works, what does not work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I feel like that plays into it. And then I also feel like, well, this is a whole other sidebar conversation, but here we go.
Here we go.
Age appropriateness. Like, I just feel like, we kind of skirt around this and we like are like, oh, we don't really want to talk about it. And like, I know it's a moral compass, but I feel like there's some themes that maybe shouldn't be with like a group of dancers under the age of 12. But then on the flip side, I also think that like, I want young dancers to feel comfortable and confident in their bodies. I want them to be empowered. And
right.
So it's like, do I have a problem with a dancer wearing a 2-piece to perform in? No, I do not. But do I think that maybe they don't need to wear a rhinestone bikini at age 8 and dancing to like a song like Boys by Lizzo? Also, no, I don't think that's okay. So there's the two extremes.
Right. What I wanted to say, which again, I will get spicy about it. I think there's a lot of age inappropriateness on stage at competition that never gets called out.
I do too. But then I also feel like,
and I'm perpetrating that
people don't
as
understand.
An adjudicator, like not calling it out.
Well, the thing people don't understand is that the competitions need the studios to be happy. The studios need the parents to be happy. The parents need the kids to be happy. And then in an effort to make everyone happy, sometimes we maybe overlook some of these things just to keep peace.
Yes.
And the reality is like, maybe we need to use our voice, use our power to kind of steer it.
Yes. And you make such a good point, because this is a conversation of age appropriateness. Remember, kids are still kids, or competition dancers are still kids. And you see a lot of that on social media, wherever you are. And also you will see kids walking around in like white costumes. For me, stress me out. On bot, like they stress me out, because the lights, if
it could sell so fast.
We see it preached, but like, is there a tide turning? Who will be the brave soul?
Okay, here's the thing.
That's not really, if we believe in keeping competition dancers kids and age appropriateness, then we have to start saying that wasn't really appropriate. We don't feel that that's appropriate.
But and then that's scary. Like, I can do that as an adjudicator at some events.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, I feel like as an industry, we just need to move away from the hypersexualization of dance and youth. Like, it just needs to. But then at the same time, I feel kind of hypocritical, because I'm like, I don't care if you use a shoulder shimmy isolation. I don't think doing like it's being mindful of the costume choices that you're making and the movement qualities that you're asking for the dancer. So maybe not adding like kind of like a circular hip motion towards the audience in a brief. Like, maybe that's not the choice. Perhaps it would land different if they were wearing a pant or like and it would be kind of not as
risque.
Or like provocative. Like,
you bring up a really good point, that it's the sum of the parts, not necessarily the individual parts, that can take a number from classic jazz. Because, sorry, I didn't finish that thought. That can take a dance from classic jazz to something we might see as slightly more inappropriate.
Right.
As you
and then I have a problem.
Yeah, because there are things in and then this gets into the whole classic jazz thing, but we won't really get into that. Maybe I'll say
that's Broadway, a whole other day. Like,
Broadway classic stage jazz that we know, there is lots of,
and that's fine. Like, that kind of has like a that's fine. But I also, like, my problem is like, doing a split facing the other way and then arching your back. Like, I have like, I don't think that's age appropriate for a 10-year-old to do in their solo.
For sure.
I don't know. It's kind of like the moral compass of just like even watching your dancers in their costumes doing their routine and maybe being like, ooh, we need to angle that differently.
And that's as easy, like, that's such an easy fix. And it's not taking away from your artistic integrity or your vision for the
But then it's also checking your ego. Like, it's like,
absolutely.
Actually, this is funny. This is advice I got when I was first started choreographing. And it was like, would you feel comfortable with your grandma and grandpa watching this routine?
100%. That's a good rule of thumb. Whoever your grandma, grandpa, or,
like your like kind of like, or even like your mentor, like would your mentor be like, ooh, that was a good routine for them? Like,
would you be embarrassed if someone you cared about watched this
routine?
I like that. I like that. Yeah, that's a good way to measure it. And I will say this sort of like piggybacks onto really good advice you gave me, that I feel is similar to this. Why would you take someone's critique to heart if you wouldn't go to them for advice?
That's another just like, yes, like why? Like, Like,
Which
if you
I
wouldn't seek out their
never,
advice, why are you desperately craving their approval?
yeah,
You know,
which I
like,
never keyed into. And I feel like those two thoughts of would you be embarrassed to show someone this dance, and again, this sort of all circles into, you know, working in the competitive dance field, right? Like, don't hang all of your identity on what one adjudicator says,
that's,
because, you know, you don't know them necessarily.
and they're
And
speaking from their own personal
yeah,
experience, and they all have their own backgrounds and things that they
yeah,
like. And the reality is that they have preferences.
of course.
And
Yeah,
that's like that's the humanness.
yeah.
Like, of course they do. So to kind of flip everything that you're doing because, well, for example, like, oh, I don't know, I'm not going to name names or anything, but you know,
Don't name
I
names.
knew a teacher one time that all of a sudden had all her dancers spotting the audience all the time on every shenny, on everything, because she had an adjudicator tell her that, like, oh, I can't really see them spotting.
Well, then I will see them. Like, let's say that I'm then the adjudicator for that same group. I will say,
Why aren't you spotting where you're
why
traveling?
aren't you spotting the direction you're going? Like, I'm gonna, so that just proves that, that there's no winning. But mostly that, you know, every adjudicator has their own preferences. The other thing I want to jump off from there is that as adjudicators, our words not only impact the students, but the teachers. I will never forget, I did a number. They wore sort of harem pants that hit mid calf, and they were black harem pants. And the students I was working with had black jazz shoes. And I thought, this is totally fine. We're sort of having this ninja theme. I don't see a problem in how this looks. One adjudicator made a comment about the leg line on these kids, that having the black hit halfway through their shin,
Like, yeah.
and the black shoes didn't create a line, and they would have preferred to see them in beige jazz shoes. The torment that has put me in to this day, where I'm like,
gosh, honey, you need to let that go.
I
Like, that was
know, I do, but I'm like, if they're wearing
and
beige
I
tights,
kind of
they're
like
wearing beige
cringe as
shoes.
I hear you, because I definitely said that on a tape before. I've definitely been like, this might be a Mr. Marcel opinion, but I think that this would look better if you wore.
And I think had I received it in that way of, this is a very personal opinion, because let's get real, they were like 8. It's not like that
Or even like
costume
adding
choice.
black socks that were high and went into the pant would have been the easier fix for that, you know?
Or just being like, does it really impact the dance?
It doesn't.
So there's just, yeah, but it really did stick. It really did stick with me. And so I try to think about that. And again, I will credit you as offering the word choice when we're on the mic as adjudicators, saying, this is a very personal preference of mine, and I want to bring it up as an option to think about in the future in terms of like a shoe choice, or sometimes I'll like a staging choice or a costume choice. And I'll always put those sort of at the end. And
And then it's also one of those things that, like, we're told to comment on what the students have control over.
Right.
And that is something that they don't have control over.
Yeah.
But does it mean, like, especially if it's something as simple as like, maybe if you wore like beige socks instead of black socks for your contemporary solo, your leg line would look prettier.
Yeah.
That's an easy fix. You can go to the drugstore and buy beige socks.
Right. And
so
then
like, that's kind of my comment on that.
My counter to that, because this is who I am, is if you really believe in the black socks, like if you get that, if you receive, let's say the choreographer receives your note of maybe a beige sock could improve the leg line, or, you know, whatever. If you as a choreographer go, no, those black socks are integral to my piece,
then you disregard it. And or you go, what I've created is not reading how I want it to read. People aren't understanding that the black socks are a metaphor for whatever. or that you're making pictures and the pictures with the black socks
are being very framed,
contrast,
like very deliberate.
And then they yeah.
And I always think, I mean, I talk about curiosity a lot, and it takes a bit of separation from the piece to listen to notes like that from adjudicators and say, okay, they didn't like that, or they think that this would be a better option. Ruminate on it for a second. You're like, oh yeah, okay. Because sometimes we get so in it, we lose our.
Well, there's that. There's also like the perspective that lots of times they've been sitting there for 8 hours already, and that was an off the cuff comment, and it's how they really feel, but it's not necessarily to be like, not that I don't think that you should take notes to heart or like that they weren't genuine or whatever, but it's like, this was a comment made in one moment in time.
Yeah.
And it was an opinion.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean that other people have the same opinion.
Yeah. And it's not gospel. I would say too, in the opportunity, if you have a panel, like, did all 3 adjudicators talk about it? Then I might go, oof.
Maybe I need to rethink. Yeah.
Maybe I need to take a look.
Perhaps it's me.
and perhaps it's me is something that I think too frequently, but I also think is a very valuable tool.
Well, it's just kind of like erasing the possibility of it not being you. You know what I mean? Like, we don't self-reflect.
Yeah. And self-reflection, I think, as a choreographer and the teacher, is hugely important. And it goes back to what you were saying about it not being about us, it not being about our ego, but looking at the piece more objectively. Because that's what me as an adjudicator, I'm trying my best. I don't know these kids. I don't know what they've been through. I'm just looking at something that hit me for 3 minutes.
Right. And that's kind of the other thing too that I kind of wish more students would understand is that judges don't know your journey. Like, so, I want you to know and feel when you had a personal best run through. When you have a personal best, I want you to know and celebrate that as your teacher. Like, I want you to feel that in your soul because that should feel good. You performed at your best. You did it to the best of your potential. And it's frustrating as an educator when I see them go to perhaps a different event with a different scoring system. And they're like, oh my gosh, I was like a lower medal standing than I usually am.
Right.
I guess I didn't have a good run through today. And it kind of like discredits their whole self. And then it's like, even the whole competitive environment, we're trying to teach these kids to, dance because you love it and dance for you. And then here's this environment we put them in which they're directly compared against each other. It's kind of hypocritical.
100%.
But then they wouldn't want to do it unless that existed.
I know. So, it really is a catch-22.
But then I love it. So I feel like I'm also a hypocrite because I'm like, well, I love dance competitions. I love adjudicating. I love attending them. But then I hate the way that sometimes the outcomes of like the disappointment and dealing with all of that. And like, well, that's part of the dance journey. And while that's part of like, growing up, and dance lessons are life lessons, you need to learn how to handle yourself with composure and grace when you don't have the desired outcomes that you're craving. Do you know what I mean?
Yep. So I want to flip the coin and ask you, how do we, as dance educators, coach, mentor, and empower our students to have that self-motivation, to have that self-awareness, to have that self-reflection, so that they know for themselves as an individual, hey, that was a really good run, regardless of what the outcome is at that competition. Because I think that really is the missing piece of the puzzle, is the action to coach these students in a way so that they develop those skills, so that is how they respond at competition. Do you have anything that you do with your students, or do you have any thoughts about how
I definitely, like, for sure I do.
Kiddos?
So how I kind of approach that is I basically tell my students, especially like this comes when like not the younger ones as much, but like more of the like teens and seniors and like the older dancers, I tell them that, like, your job today is to perform this piece. You don't have to do, like, you don't have to be anything more than who you are already.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, your job, so I kind of remind them that, like, it's like your job is to present this piece.
Right.
And you owe it to yourself to have a good run through for your piece. So you just need to get yourself cool, calm, and collected. You need to just breathe and calm yourself down. You need to maybe, like, also different dancers respond to different things. So some dancers are hot mess express watching the other dancers in their category and are so worried about how they're going to compare and measure up. And the reality is that, like, they never really needed to worry about who's in their category, because once you've worried about who's in your category, you've already lost. You're not in the headspace of presenting your piece. You need to get yourself calm so that you can perform your performance. Like, you need, like, your job today is to perform this piece. Yeah. So it doesn't matter what somebody else does. And ironically, I find that the dancers that just go out and try and perform a good piece of art to entertain an audience are ultimately the ones that end up doing better. Yeah. And the funny thing about that is the kids that are so worried about placing or who's in their category and who's going to, or she's so good and she wanted this, this, and this. And I'm like, well, that dancer is probably not even thinking about that at all. They're just kind of like, I'm going to today really hit my dynamics. I'm going to really hear that and have a genuine new thought or new idea at the end of my phrasing. Their goals in their solos become different. Oh, I need to have such a good run through. I need to have, oh, don't mess this up. Oh, don't mess this up. Oh, don't mess this up. And you change it to getting yourself into a, like my acting teacher would say, he used to say, you do all the work in rehearsal so that you can forget it all and live it live.
And I think that's so true for dance.
And I feel like it's like you do all the rehearsal and you work on all the things so that you can just abandon it at the last second and just do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the difference between working it and performing it, or working it and living it, I think. And also recognizing as an educator, when you are at competition, knowing your individual students and what they need to have a successful run. Some kids I know love watching who's in their category because it fires them up. They have they might have a bit of a stubborn streak, or that just, they have that healthy competitive nature where, okay, I'm seeing what's out there. It drives.
And then I've seen kids like fully turtle up watching. It's like, oh my gosh.
And I've started doing this with my younger students, where I say, what would you like to do? Do you think it would be helpful to watch the people in your category, or would you prefer not to watch? And some kids will say, I want to watch. And I'm like, okay. And then we go backstage and then they watch one and they go, I don't want to watch anymore. And I'm like, totally cool. Let's turn around and
change gears here.
100%. And I know for some of my senior students, I have lots of different personalities.
Oh, I know. Me too.
Some kids really like to get hype, and they're backstage and they're not thinking about the number at all. They're just like, yeah, let's go, because they've put in the work. They also know that that's their personality, where they've put in the work in the studio and now they're just out there to have a blast.
And they just let it happen.
I just need to focus in. It's not that they're not having fun, and it's not that they're not excited, but their personality is like, I need to turn inward so that I feel prepared. And once I started learning, because I'm kind of like, let's get pumped backstage.
I'm kind of let's get pumped as well. That's very neat.
And recognizing that some students
need to lay on the ground and breathe.
Yeah.
They might need to lay in semi-supine and do deep breaths and meditation.
Totally. And just sort of, or, mark through sort of, on their own. And it's been so valuable for me to recognize that. And then also too, I talk a lot about, as students get older, letting your teammates know that is your process, so that you don't get frustrated when I don't know,
that's also
Abby comes
a
up to you and starts
quality,
crumping on you, and you're like, I need to go inside. And it creates trust and boundaries within the team that is, I think, is really lovely.
And even that's a good kind of point. And I just kind of do it. I haven't actually ever had a dialogue about it. I just kind of read people and where they're at. I'm like, okay, you look like you need to maybe do some breathing. You look like, but then I'm like, maybe that is a helpful thing. Maybe in the leadership that is like a thing that
I think
everyone can bring. Is like,
yeah,
maybe you need to talk about what you think works best for you and then reevaluate
reflect on it.
Reflect if that actually worked.
Well, and I will say you make a good point. As I get older, I recognize that I have to say the things that the kids sometimes are afraid to say out loud. So, where I see tension, or if, for example, like I see someone who gets nervous before they go on stage, they get internal, they turtle in a healthy way, not in a scary way. And then maybe their duet partner or another team member comes over and they're trying to hug them and like love on them. And unfortunately, sometimes, and this is something I think we need to empower all of our students to do more, is empower that student to say, hey, teammate, I appreciate you. This energy doesn't work for me right now before I go on stage. I really just need like 30 seconds. When I get off stage, I need you to be there to give me a hug. That's really what I'd like.
Right. But then also the perception of that's not rude.
But it's not
rude. But like sometimes getting told off when you're doing that, you're like, well, I'm not like, whatever. It can feel like you're, and then it creates drama. You know what I mean?
And that's why I will be the one to say it, because I'm seeing the tension. I'm seeing the discomfort. And I'll say, hey, so
you need to like use your teacher power to be like, maybe you need to not hug her right now, or
totally. And not even like that, just say, hey, or I will become the bad guy and I'll say, hey, whatever kid who's coming to hug, like, hey, thanks so much. I'm going to take so-and-so backstage. Like, we'll see. Like, can you go sit? I make kids sit in the audience all the time because they all want to be backstage with their friends. And sometimes
I do too. I send them back. I send them to my, so I'm like, it's way easier to perform to your friends and
than it is cheer for us in the audience.
I was like, it's because like, why do we need? Also, how intimidating is it?
We're really
as
getting
a soloist to have like 25 other dancers pile into the wings to watch a 10-year-old do their solo.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and then all the other 10-year-old soloists are like, because
yes,
I'm like, that's not, I don't love that.
Well, and in the, we're getting spicy, you guys, but it's fine. In the guise of one studio supporting their soloist, where, you do have 25 people back there in the wings, what we're forgetting our empathetic piece, where we go, this is a novice 10-year-old jazz solo category. There are a whole bunch of 10-year-olds who are backstage and they don't have 25 people.
And now they feel like they're not enough.
For sure.
Right.
Like, go cheer for your friends in the audience. It feels like an old-timey theater etiquette thing where if you are not performing, you aren't backstage. And
I understand like maybe 2 or 3, but like maybe it's when it gets like, I'm like, this is silly.
And also I always think of it from a safety point of view in terms of like, I'm like, we don't know if that person has exits or entrances. You might be, unbeknownst to you, you might be impacting their performance in a not so positive way, which is a bummer. I really like to send my kids out to the also too, because we've all been there at 9 a.m. on a Thursday morning where there's no one in the audience except your mom, maybe, and like a handful of people. It's a bummer to perform to an empty house. That's a real bummer.
And it's also like one of those things that you should be able to, like, well, if we're training them, they should be able to perform no matter what.
And the flip side of that is, if everybody could perform on Friday night to a hip hop crowd, how would their performance
differ?
And that's why too, I get,
nice.
I'm really becoming an old lady. That's fine. I am what I am. I think that's why I'm so adamant about clapping and cheering for everybody relatively equally. Obviously, I'm going to hoot a little more at the beginning for like my kiddos or my studio. That's normal. But this theater etiquette of we see you, you are a performer, we recognize you.
That's a culture that's important to me. So it's something I instill is like, you will clap and you will be polite and you will, and same with like, when other kid from a different studio goes out of their way to compliment you and your dance.
Oh my God.
You say thank you. You like, and you're gracious. And like, I feel like that's a learned thing, and that comes from leadership at the top. And it's like,
100%. If you're not
like nobody wants to hear the list of things that went wrong.
No,
you need to say thank you. Like, and
I will also say, I think that, spicy. I look forward to your angry emails, dance moms. I think that the students are getting better cheering for each other and encouraging each other at the competition because they realize directly that they also want that. So it becomes more reciprocal. I actually feel like, I'm so sorry, it's the dance parents that need to.
Oh, I have a spicy comment after.
Like I really think it's the dance parents that need to, yes, your kid is amazing and beautiful and perfect and wonderful. And then everybody else who's in the audience also feels that about their child. So and also parents are role models. And I think that when they only focus on their kiddo, like I think some of those theater etiquette things and dance etiquette and sportsmanship, just that needs to be modeled by the parents even more.
Kind of like circles back to the whole talking about poorly about a choreographer or teacher, or talking about another kid being moved up in a negative way in earshot of your child. Of course, it's going to have a bad impact. And now the child has this idea, and it was validated by bad leadership from the parent.
Well, it was validated by the person they love, trust, and respect the most.
Right. So I feel like,
it really burrows into themselves.
But I'm like, sometimes I think that parents don't understand how, like, their comment, well, also kind of lends itself to the insecurities that those dancers face, because now they're like hearing this, and now they're like, oh, is that what people are going to say about me?
100%. And this isn't to drill down on dance parents.
No, but it's kind of when you know better, you do better.
Because parents have a very difficult job. And just as you were saying that, I was thinking about how I've said on this podcast already that it's so important that we as dance educators and adjudicators and choreographers and anyone who's in the dance industry directly, how important it is that we are aware of what we say, how we say it, because it is so impactful on the students. And the reality is that any adult authority figure in our dancers' lives has that impact. And that includes parents, family members, the teachers, the choreographers, the studio owners, all of the adults in the room can have a really big impact on these students. And as a parent, I would think to put yourself outside of that doesn't apply to you isn't really fair. And flip side, this isn't just talking in terms of what you might say negatively that could impact your dancer. It also goes the other way, that your positive encouragement, your support of them is equally as strong as the dance teacher, the studio owner. In fact, I'd say even more. Like if my parents think I'm really good at what I do, that makes me really, really proud. The fact that my dad loved me as a dancer is like, blows my mind. Like I still want my family to tell me, like to this day when I have gigs, that they liked what I did, or that they liked my choreography, or they saw, like I'm fishing for it. And I'm an adult. So parents have such a powerful role in the lives of their dancer.
You talked about it all needs to weave. It's like, the positive culture all has to kind of, you can be a positive puzzle piece, but if the other puzzle pieces aren't positive, it's not going to click.
It's a group effort for sure.
It's a group effort.
It is.
And like that whole saying, like it takes a village to raise a child, it takes a village to raise a dancer. And we all need to kind of do our part in a positive way to have a healthy culture.
Yeah. That's so interesting that we really ended up having a pretty deep, I mean, it's not surprising, but like having a conversation about community. I think it's so important.
Well, I feel like I know again, another overshare, but here we go, is that like ultimately there's been times in my teaching career where I felt like super burnt out. And ultimately it's the power of community and like those people. And it's like showing up for them consistently that like kind of make me re-fall in love with teaching and with dance and with choreography and things. I don't know, like when I was dealing with like personal loss or things. And it's like the community's kind of what got me through.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like having that dance network and like dance family. I call them my dance family, my dance kids.
Yeah.
It's like,
and I don't think you're alone in that. And I think again, don't get sappy, but the idea of this podcast and the title Dancing Through It is that when I was thinking about, okay, I want to have these conversations, but I also want to recognize how this thing, this culture, this community, this art form has impacted my life so deeply and it's a thread. If you ask somebody that I went to elementary school with, if you ask somebody, actually, I did just have a friend from high school. We just reconnected and he was like, oh, like, what are you up to? And I said, I own a dance studio. And he said, of course you do. I always envisioned that for you. And I was like, I was like, I'm shocked, but not shocked. But it's just when it becomes such a part of you, if you know, dancing through it is how we make it through our lives. It's the touchstone in our loss, in our grief, in our success, in every aspect that.
Right. So it's like through our lives if you have dance in your life and it's like a part of you and it's in your identity, it's like you're going to always be going through something in your life, but you always have dance to come home to.
Yeah. We're all just dancing through it. That's how we're functioning. That's how we're getting through the day and our lives.
And then I think that, that kind of circles back and ties it in with the human first approach. Like really, you're meeting them where these kids are at in this moment in time. And like, yes, we're teaching them dance, but they're also humans first. So it's like the reality of working with these kids is you need to meet them where they're at. If they broke up with their first boyfriend ever, maybe they need to have a mentorship talk day with a little bit of movement. Maybe like, I don't know, I'm just assuming if you had a solo lesson with them, like I happen to have, but
right.
Obviously you're not going to take time in class to do that.
That's a big piece of what continues to drive me and lights me up inside is that we get to have these relationships with our students in that way, that we can take our knowledge, again, as more mature, experienced dance teachers, and also having been that student, right? To bridge that gap between the teenage student struggling.
But then I will caution teachers that like, yes, have a human first approach, but like also consistency in how you train them. Like, sometimes like maybe they are having a hard day, but they just need dance class to be normal. And if you just read the room, you're like, maybe today's not the day to like be on them as hard.
Right. And that comes with,
but it's like,
experience.
You can't just like be like check in with every dancer and see where they're at and be like, oh, everyone's tired today, so I guess we had a more of a easier day. Like you still need to provide a quality educational program. Both can exist. Is kind
both
of where
can and do exist, and the experience and, like you say, reading the room, and also recognizing that teenagers will say they're tired every class. They always
they're never going to not be tired.
And that the consistency is so important, especially if they've had a bad day. They know they can come into the studio and we're going to do our warm up and okay, you might get some, yawns or sideways looks or what have you in those first 10, 15 minutes. But as they get into class, the familiarity seeps in and allows them to let go of whatever they came into the room with.
And that's why it becomes the safe space. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So like everything else kind of closes off and now you're here.
Yeah.
And that only exists if you create that.
Yeah.
As a dance teacher and leader.
Man, I'm so grateful that all of these conversations are really just tying together so neatly and the threads from each of them just go together.
That's actually wild that
No, I don't think it's wild because that is my entire goal and aim. So I'm not trying to lead anyone, although unless I say in their questions, but I think that there is a bit of a culture shift, and I'm really grateful to be a part of it and to bring it to light. We are going to move into my lightning round of questions. They are not lightning round questions. I know you're going to.
Okay, I'll try and make them quick answers.
But they're just curious things that I like to know about, and I like to hear the answers too. I was thinking about this when I was getting ready today. We've been friends, like I said, for probably a decade. And a lot of dance teachers have caffeine addiction. But I've never really seen you drink a lot of coffee. I don't know what your coffee order is. I don't even know if you have a coffee order. Do you have a coffee order? And what is it?
I have a coffee order. I usually get like a hazelnut oat latte from Starbucks, my coffee order, or a double from like steep tea from.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Double steep tea or okay. Because I feel also we're never a competition normally at the same time. And I feel like I was like, I actually don't know what his coffee order is. If you could only teach one style of dance for the rest of your career, I know it's impossible. It's not going to happen. But if you had to only teach one, what genre would you teach?
Probably jazz, because it's the most versatile. Yeah.
Yeah. I knew that. I just wanted everybody else to know. Oh, is there a song that you can turn on that will change your day? It'll always get you hyped. It'll change your mood. What song do you have a song?
Yes. When Doves Cry.
Wait, stop. That song's not it is a pump-up
I know, but like
song.
I'm just like, when it's on, I'm just like happy.
Got it. Are you a big Prince fan?
No, but like I like that song.
I didn't think so, which is why I was like, I need to know. Note to self. Marcel students, if you're listening to this and he looks like he's having a bad day, just put on When Doves Cry.
When Doves Cry.
Yeah. I'll ask you this because I know you and I have talked about sort of enjoying ballet more as an adult dancer than as a student. Do you have a favorite ballet bar exercise that you like to do? And what is it and why?
Oh, fondue.
Fondue?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about it.
I just feel like it's like you're in the music and you're filling it out, and it's usually like it feels correct. It feels good. It feels like...
It does feel correct. Yes. Yeah, fondue is good. Fondue's good. For the same reasons that I like rondejam. And I will often put those two exercises together. Two questions to finish. One, I really like this one, and I know it's difficult to answer. What do you feel is maybe an ugly or unsavory personality trait that you've recognized about yourself that you learned through dance? So like for me, it's that I can be quite jealous and I'm quite competitive, and that those can be seen as really negative if I don't keep them in check in the right way. Do you have anything that you've noticed about yourself and your personality through dance that might be seen as less than positive?
Well, yes, but it's like, which one?
Thank you. That's such an honest answer. And that's how I feel too. And then everyone who's been on the podcast is like, and I'm like, oh, we have different brains happening.
So like, I realized that I was maybe perhaps a little bit more judgmental, but that was coming from a place of insecurity.
Right. Yeah.
And then I learned to kind of, through time, be like, well, this is actually coming from me feeling like I'm not enough.
But I think that will resonate with a lot of people, because in Austin's episode, we talked about it as well, where he realized he was doing and saying things that weren't true to his personality,
right?
Because of the environment that he was in. I think it's true, and it'll resonate with a lot of people. I really appreciate you being honest.
I think it's like an awkward question, and I don't really love sharing that, but it is like one of those things that I kind of.
But I think
I
hear
can't
you.
Not be honest, and
I hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. And the reason I asked the question is because I think that's maybe one of the ways we help younger dancers recognize if they are falling into those not so nice spaces, that it's normal, because the folks out here, I felt that way. Everyone's felt that way. But
and
how do we act
just
on
kind
it?
of bring awareness to what you're actually doing. And then like,
and where it's coming from.
And then you can like, and where it's coming from so that you can actually be aware of it and change it.
Yeah. Is it really you, or is
this coming from you not feeling
a reaction because of the situation you're in? Yeah. Oof, thank you.
That's like group therapy here.
Last question, which is, what is the Mr. Marcel nugget, word of wisdom that you like your students or other dance educators? You have a lot. I mean, everyone I on the pod do, and often that's what we talk about the most, is their words of wisdom and their nuggets. But what's one thing you'd like to leave dancers or dance educators with at the end of this episode?
I feel like the biggest thing I would like to leave with anyone who would maybe be listening, or with any students that I kind of work with, is just like the real power that you have within you is showing up unapologetic as yourself. You know what I mean? Like, the truth is that you never really have to be anyone else. And sometimes in trying to be what you think everybody wants you to be, you lose your own identity. And I feel like the reality is you are enough. You didn't need to be anything. And I feel like it's easier to build and work from meeting you where you're actually at, instead of this false, like, you need to break down the walls, then you need to, like, whereas if you just show up and you are where you're at and who you are, you're able to build and grow and learn so much faster. Sometimes we just need to just be.
Yeah, I love that. And I will say, as your friend, that is something that you have actually, you texted that to me this year, actually, when I had like huge imposter syndrome. So I know that it's genuine and that he means it. And it's true. It feels cliche, but if you can show up as yourself authentically.
Yes, the secret is you were always enough.
Yeah, it is. Well, I mean, we will have you back, obviously, because you and I, again, chit chat about all this nonsense all the time. If folks enjoyed, of course they will, but if they'd like to follow you on social media, where can listeners find you online? Okay, so I'm on Instagram at dance_with_Marcel. We'll make sure that we put the Marcel's Instagram handle underneath. Follow him. He's always posting his students, which I like love. Like, you're very authentic in what you post and sharing, all the stages of learning, which I really appreciate. We always have such a good chat, and I'm looking forward to this season together, and the unhinged texts we will continue to send each other throughout this season. Yes, I'm grateful for you. Thank you so much for having me. Of course. Yeah. And I will not forget to export this properly this time. Yes. My goodness. Marcel, thank you so much for your time. And thank you to you watching. We are so appreciative of the support we have for the podcast. We will be back here with another episode only on YouTube next Tuesday. We'll see you then. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Dancing Through It. Connect with the Dancing Through It community over on Instagram and follow me at lesliekuny. And again, it goes down to, well, do we actually mean this? Do we actually want to take action towards this? Or are we just happy wringing our hands about it? Yes, and if we can acknowledge that's an issue and we continue to do nothing about it, are we really game changers? Facts. That's the one. That little interaction was our blooper. That one. Yes.